Hello and welcome to the news on NT International. I am Comfort Fashion and my sign language interpreter is Josiah Abdullahi. We begin with the headlines. EU to put Iran guards on terrorist lists as the bloc gathers in Brussels. House of Representatives passed 2026 budget for second reading. Plus, ECOWAS Palace development partners on short transition process in Guinea-Bissau. ECOWAS is insisting on a short transition process in Guinea-Bissau to restore democratic rule in that country. A president of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Aliou Touré, made the position at a meeting with development partners in Abuja, assuring them that political stability in the sub-region remains a priority for the regional bloc. Kelvin Ehonwai reports.
Apart from levies from member states, the bulk of financing for ECOWAS intervention programs comes from donations and grants from development partners. This meeting, at the instance of the president of ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Aliou Touré, was essentially to brief them on the achievements of the Commission in 2025 and seek further collaboration in 2026. Specifically, Dr. Touré informed them that the various grants received were helpful in implementing key economic stabilization programs in member states, resulting in improved economic performances across the sub-region, and assured them that in spite of pockets of political challenges in some member countries, the region made progress as successful elections were held in Côte d'Ivoire and Guinea, while a commitment on short transition in Guinea-Bissau is being worked on.
With regard to economic integration, ECOWAS continued to advance its integration agenda with determination. The second phase of the Free Movement and Migration Project was launched during the year, and the EcoVisa online portal was also validated. 7 of our member states are now implementing the ECOWAS National Biometric Identity Card. The 7th one and the most recent one is the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Representatives of the various development partners pledged further commitment to the realization of ECOWAS priority projects in energy, road infrastructure, economic stimulus policies and environment, while challenging the Commission to show more resolve in achieving peace and stability in member countries. In Abuja, Kelvin Ehonwai, NTA News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has met Emirati counterpart Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in Moscow ahead of a second round of talks on the Ukraine war in Abu Dhabi. Details with Justin Bemui.
The UAE has emerged as a key mediator in the nearly 4-year war, brokering a number of prisoner exchanges between the two sides and most recently hosting talks between US, Russian and Ukrainian officials on a US drafted plan to end the fighting. The follow-up meeting is planned for Sunday, though it is not clear whether US officials will attend. Putin said in a televised meeting with Al Nahyan that he would like to commend the Emirati side's efforts in the context of the Ukrainian crisis, their contribution to prisoner exchanges, and assistance in organizing contacts in the United Arab Emirates. Several top Russian officials accompanied Putin to the meeting, including Central Bank Governor Elvira Nabiullina and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov, a powerful Kremlin loyalist who does not typically take part in bilateral meetings with foreign leaders, also attended. Sitting across from Putin, Al Nahyan said he supported constructive dialogue and efforts aimed at promoting necessary diplomatic solutions. Justin Bemuni, NTA News.
Pakistan has ordered enhanced screening of travelers entering the country for signs of the deadly Nipah virus, becoming the latest Asian nation to step up precautionary measures after India confirmed 2 cases. The move places Pakistan alongside countries including Thailand, Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Indonesia and Vietnam, all of which have tightened health screening at airports amid heightened regional alerts. However, Indian authorities said there are currently no plans to introduce airport screening, insisting there is no indication of a wider outbreak. The Nipah virus is a zoonotic disease that can cause fever and inflammation of the brain and is known for its high mortality rates. There is currently no vaccine, and health experts note that while the virus is severe, human-to-human transmission is relatively difficult and usually requires prolonged close contact with an infected person. And EU foreign ministers are expected to agree to put Iran's Revolutionary Guards on the bloc's terrorist list after a deadly crackdown on mass protests. Justin Bem-Uyi reports that the EU's foreign policy chief is quoted saying, "If you act as a terrorist, you should also be treated as a terrorist."
Of course, the main topic is Iran. We are putting new sanctions on the list, and I also expect that we agree on listing the Iran Revolutionary Guard on the terrorist list. This will put them on the same footing with Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Daesh. If you act as a terrorist, you should also be treated as terrorist.
EU's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, tells journalists ahead of the ministers' meeting in the Brussels. In a related development, dozens of protesters gathered in Brussels to call on EU foreign ministers to blacklist Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC. The move would put them on the same level as jihadist groups like Al-Qaeda and Islamic State. In the meantime, the EU on Thursday imposed sanctions on Iran's Interior Minister, Prosecutor General, and Regional Revolutionary Guard commanders over a deadly crackdown on mass protests. The 27-nation bloc in total added 15 officials and 6 entities to its asset freeze and visa ban blacklist, according to the EU's official journal. Justin Bem-Uyi, NTA News.
Moving on, EU foreign ministers gather in Brussels for a European Council meeting where they are set to discuss Iran, the war in Ukraine, and the situation in the Middle East. Again, Justin Bem-Uyi tells us more.
EU foreign ministers are meeting in Brussels amid heightened geopolitical tensions with Iran, the war in Ukraine, and instability in the Middle East dominating discussions. On Iran, ministers are expected to take stock of the bloc's response to Tehran's actions, including concerns over its nuclear program, regional activities, and recent internal developments as the European Union weighs further diplomatic and restrictive measures. The war in Ukraine is also high on the agenda, with EU officials reaffirming continued political, military, and financial support for Kyiv as the conflict drags on. Discussions are focusing on sustaining unity among member states and ensuring long-term assistance for Ukraine. Ministers are also reviewing the situation in the Middle East, where ongoing violence and humanitarian concerns have prompted renewed calls for de-escalation and diplomatic engagement to prevent a wider regional crisis. The meeting underscores the European Union's efforts to maintain a coordinated foreign policy stance as it navigates multiple global challenges. Justin Bem-Uyi, NTA News.
The Congolese government and the United Nations have launched the Democratic Republic of Congo's 2026 Humanitarian Response Plan as conflict and funding cuts push an already dire crisis even deeper. The plan was unveiled in the capital, Kinshasa, amid escalating violence in the country's 8 years of instability and have been compounded by renewed fighting between Congolese forces and the Rwanda-backed M23 armed group, forcing millions of people from their homes. Entire communities have fled violence in North Kivu and Ituri, seeking safety in overcrowded displacement camps with limited access to food, clean water, and medical care. Aid agencies warned the situation is growing more dangerous by the day. An ongoing insecurity has made it difficult for humanitarian workers to reach those most in need, while funding cuts are forcing some organizations to scale back or halt their operations altogether. At the launch of the 2026 plan, officials stressed the urgent need for international support, warning that without additional funding, life-saving assistance could be reduced even further. The United Nations says millions of Congolese will require humanitarian aid this year as violence, displacement and poverty continue to fuel one of the world's longest-running humanitarian emergencies. Officials say the response plan aims to prevent a deeper catastrophe, but warn time and resources are running out. The federal government of Nigeria has committed to restoring the nation's position as a leading global producer and exporter of cocoa. This pledge was made by the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar during the International Cocoa and Chocolate Forum in London. Musa Babaliu completes the story.
In the 1960s and 1970s, Nigeria ranked as the world's second largest producer and exporter of cocoa, before slipping to 7th place in the global rankings. Factors contributing to this decline include urbanization, plant diseases, and the aging of cocoa trees. The Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar stated that all identified challenges will be tackled, enabling Nigeria to reclaim its status as Africa's leading player in the cocoa industry. Speaking at the forum under the theme Reclaiming Value, Shaping Rules, Nigeria's Vision for Cocoa Sovereignty, Kyari emphasized Nigeria's natural advantages in cocoa cultivation, such as fertile soil, sustainable agroecological conditions, and a rich agricultural tradition. The minister highlighted President Bola Tinubu's administration focus on promoting sustainable development, attracting ethical foreign investment, and enhancing productivity, trade, and economic growth in the agricultural sector. He outlined Nigeria's approach to strengthening economic ties through the African Continental Free Trade Area, which aims to boost intra-Africa trade and improve global competitiveness. This strategy includes emphasizing regulatory compliance, environmentally sustainable, carbon-smart cocoa farming, and increased youth participation in the industry. A notable movement at the event was the presentation of special award for transforming Nigeria's cocoa industry to the minister. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
All right, stay with us on the news while we take a short break. We'll be back with more news. Moving on, the 2026 appropriation bill of 58.47 trillion naira has killed second reading in the House of Representatives. The progress of the money bill followed a lead debate on the budget proposals by House Majority Leader Julius Ihonvere, which was unanimously adopted without dissension. The Majority Leader urged other lawmakers to support the passage of the budget, which prioritizes defense and security and infrastructural development.
This is a budget, it's a promise, it's expectations, it's a dream of the government. And I believe that this administration is committed to ensuring that if we all work together, put ideas together, recommit to a better Nigeria, we build a kind of socio-political, economic, cultural environment that will encourage Nigerians in their respective constituencies and communities to reach the highest points of their creative and productive abilities.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it.
National Assembly correspondent Mitairi Ikpe reports that Thursday's plenary began with a valedictory session in honor of the outgoing clerk of the House, Yahaya Danzaria, with Speaker Abbas Tajuddin commending Danzaria's career of devoted service to the stability, integrity and continuity of Nigeria's parliament and democracy in general.
Role in supporting the formulation and implementation of the legislative agenda of the 10th House of Representatives. Dr. Danzaria also played a key role in revising the standing orders of the House.
Nigeria's economy could see stronger growth starting next year as a local policy group says reforms introduced by President Bola Tinubu's administration are beginning to reshape the country's economic outlook. According to the Independent Media and Policy Initiative, IMPI, Nigeria's new economic model is expected to push gross domestic product higher in 2026 and beyond. In a policy statement signed by its chairman, Dr. Omoni Akinshiju, the think tank projected economic growth of 5.5% in 2026, a figure higher than current forecast by both the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. IMPI says there is a growing consensus among analysts that Nigeria's improving prospects are tied to the economic policies rolled out by the Tinubu administration. While the federal government itself has projected growth of 4.68% in 2026, other domestic institutions are even more optimistic. The Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry forecast growth of 7%, outpacing the Nigeria Economic Summit Group's projection of 5.5% for the same period. The think tank says these combined forecasts from both local and global institutions points to an emerging economic paradigm. IMPI highlighted increased production and productivity, improving foreign exchange stability, slowing inflation, rising foreign direct investments, and a more streamlined regulatory environment as key drivers of the expected growth. The group says sustained policy implementation will be critical as Nigeria looks to translate reform-driven optimism into long-term economic expansion. The federal government has inaugurated the Implementation Committee for Nigeria's revised National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan towards protecting the country's rich natural heritage and translate policy commitments into concrete action. Charles Alpha brings us the report.
This inauguration, hailed by many here, marks a major milestone in Nigeria's biodiversity journey and represent a national commitment to safeguarding forests, wildlife, wetlands and ecosystems as biodiversity remains central to livelihoods, food security, climate resilience and cultural identity. Minister of Environment Balarabe Abbas Lawal, in a message delivered by the Director of Forestry, Halima Bawa Buhari, emphasized that Nigeria's biological resources are under increasing pressure from habitat loss, pollution, and climate change. However, the revised National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan provides a national roadmap for addressing these challenges.
The effective implementation of the NBSAP requires more than a well-written strategy. It requires strong institutions, clear coordination mechanisms, sustained political support, and collective ownership across government, civil society, the private sector, development partners, and local communities.
The minister noted that the Inter-Ministerial Coordination and Technical Committee inaugurated will provide strategic direction, technical leadership, and accountability for the implementation.
These committees are designed to promote coherence across sectors, mobilize resources, track progress, and support evidence-based decision-making.
Together, we can build a future where biodiversity is not only protected but also harnessed for sustainable growth.
Setting up of the implementation committees is believed signals a shift from planning to action, with members tasked to coordinate efforts, monitor progress, and align biodiversity goals with national development priorities. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
The federal government says it will not hesitate to regulate social media if doing so will promote sanity and sustain unity in Nigeria. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Muhammad Idris, stated this at his maiden interaction with resident information officers under the ministry, where he assured that his office remain a one-stop shop for genuine information about government activities. Salihu Abdullahi Gwanara reports.
Since his first day in office in August 2023, among reforms, the government spokesman Mohammed Idris promised is a louder voice in amplifying renewed hope agenda.
We have seen situations in this country where both elected and appointed officers are not trusted by the public. And that is why I said from day one, when I assumed office, that the most important duty for any Minister of Information is to return trust to public communication. Even if that is the only thing you have achieved, I think you have achieved so much in your tenure. Of course, as communicators, there is a difference between a cup that is half empty and a cup that is half full.
To bring officers up to speed with the vision of the ministry as the custodian of government policies, this physical interaction with resident information officers was an opportunity to build capacity, share experiences and quality ideas to sustain the ministry's 5 pillars.
You are the bridges that trailers, caterpillars and everybody passes through, because you are communicating between the government and the public, and you're communicating from the public to the government.
You are staff of the Minister of Information. You reside elsewhere to procure information, so you're the actress of the minister feeding into, he's standing on a pyramid, information from all over the country coming to him on a daily basis.
You must align yourself with the agenda and monitor the implementation. The Renew Hope agenda is a comprehensive plan aimed at transforming and reforming the country.
We shall continue to communicate effectively. I also want to acknowledge the maturity you exhibit in your respective posts.
New rules were set for optimal performance.
There are situations where you have a resident information officer stay in a place for 7 years. Who does that? But it's important for you as resident information officers to work very closely with ministers and permanent secretaries. But please don't go and start perambulating in a ministry where your duty is already over.
It is an uncommon engagement with resident information officers, and the first under the current minister. Participants were not disappointed as the forum refreshed their minds and mandates in navigating the diverse media ecosystem and add value to their primary mandate.
So what the minister has done today is to tell the people, go out, communicate effectively, let the people know what the government is doing.
In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi Gwanara, NTA News.
Nigeria will continue to take credit for its ability to manage challenges, retain good relationship with other countries, and keep the nation as one indivisible entity in the face of global crisis, which has turned a large part of the world into war zones. At a seminar on advancing knowledge exchange organized by the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, stakeholders agreed that Nigeria has strengthened its bilateral and diplomatic relations with global partners to remain one of the major powers in Africa rather than get consumed by the current global crisis. The Institute says despite the intensifying conflict, which is now a global order, Nigeria is presented with opportunities of regional integration and multilateral engagement by transforming vulnerability into platforms for resilience and partnership.
and explore cooperative pathways that align national priorities with regional and global realities. It is also an opportunity to reimagine our stability, not merely as the absence of conflict, but as the presence of inclusive governance, economic opportunity, and constructive international engagement.
This must encompass legitimacy, political inclusion, institutional resilience, and the ability to manage diversity without violence. Reimagining Nigerian stability, therefore, requires a shift towards a cooperative, legitimacy-centered approach integrating governance reforms, human security, and preventative engagement.
The seminar, which is in partnership with Contemporary World, had as its theme Between Conflicts and Cooperation, Reimagine Nigeria's Stability in an Evolving Global Order. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Waidi Shaibu, has reaffirmed that troops' welfare remains central to operational effectiveness and institutional resilience, pledging continued support for welfare-focused initiatives. He stated this during the inauguration of a post-service housing development project in Abuja, describing it as an investment in the socio-economic well-being and morale of Nigerian Army personnel and their families. Lieutenant General Shaibu noted that the project reflects the enduring commitment of the Nigerian Army to the holistic welfare of personnel.
The context of Nigerian Army's enduring commitment to the holistic welfare of its serving and retired personnel. This commitment is pursued through deliberate policies, prudent resource management, and the provision of enabling infrastructure that enables and enhances quality of life and support orderly community living.
The project has continued in STEAM, and we considered operational efficiency and user experience.
The Nigerian Army commitment is pursued through carefully designed policies, prudent resource management, and the provision of enabling infrastructure that enhances quality of life and support for community living with Army formations and estates. That is how much we can take on the news for now. I am Comfort Fashion, and my sign language interpreter is Danjum Josiah Abdullahi.